Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about gut issues in general. I kind of told you guys who I was, talked about some biomechanical stuff with the pelvis. I also do a lot in regards to holistic nutrition and health coaching and working with people who, they've gone to naturopaths, they've gone to RHNs or health coaches, and they're struggling to really find that next step. Now, a lot of you out there have been giving diagnosis like IBS or Crohn's or Colitis or, all these varying degrees of gut issues. And my message is to not get stuck on the ideology of whatever it is that the doctors tell you have. So I'm gonna give you an example. I was working with someone who was given the term IBS, right? Her doctor said she had IBS because she had bloating, gassiness, diarrhea a lot. And these are how these people live, and it's a quite crappy quality of life, to be honest. And so she was struggling to really find a resolve as to how to improve things. So this was probably 2.5 years ago. She was complaining to me of diarrhea. The term IBS had been thrown around, and so we talked about increasing more fiber. Simple thought logic. She increased more fiber. It happened to be a vegetable, and things got worse. And so I was like, you're probably eating something you're intolerant to, right? Food sensitivities, food intolerances. So she went to go get a food test, and she did a food test, and all of a sudden she had a whole list of things that she was intolerant to. And when she worked on removing the intolerance from her diet, removing the foods that were bothering her, all of a sudden some of the diarrhea and those gastric issues that she was having started to disappear. Now, the best way I can explain it is if you have we got a burglar trying to break down the door. So the food testing is great because it's removing the thing that's hurting your system. We're removing the burglar from breaking down the door. And oftentimes that's where people stop. They kind of stop at that point, right? The door is already, half hanging off the hinges, but the burglar is gone, but you haven't really sealed the door back up. So we still have issues with our gut lining that we have to address. So when you're working on removing food intolerances, you're removing the things that are creating the inflammation, right? So this is how we manage our symptoms better. So if you remove foods you're insensitive to, then your IBS symptoms will get better, your Crohn symptoms will get better, whatever it is that you're dealing with will get better. Now, I'm reading a book called The Fungus Link, and it talks about how fungus, right? Fungus is these are microbiomes. These are small little organisms that are everywhere, and a lot of them live in our gut. We have bacteria in our gut, on our body, right? They have function for us, and we all have it, but when our health starts to come down or decline, when our vitality, so to speak, comes down because you're stressed out and you're partying on the weekends and you're not sleeping and you're tight for money, and as it continues along the way, your vitality starts to come down, and these bad bacteria can overpopulate and grow. So I end up clients, parasites or candida overgrowth or fungal overgrowth. And unless you're working at that level with people, unless you're really working on, cleaning out their system for whatever they did in the past to get to where they are now, oftentimes people get to this point where they're a little bit better, and then they hit a ledge, right? They hit a ceiling. They can't go any further. They can't, their symptoms don't get any better. They eat something outside of their regime and their whole world blows up, right? How do we make people a little less sensitive than they currently are? And everyone's different, right? We have, to get to where, let's say you're 30, right? You're 30, you're bloated, you're gassy, you're like 20 pounds overweight. You spent the previous 10 years of your life, working towards a career, starting a career, hustling, saving money, all of that. You really haven't focused on your lifestyle, right? And, when you did get a spare moment, you were probably eating out or having junk food or, drinking, whatever the case may be. And all of this over time changes our microbiome. It changes the bacteria in our gut. And when you're eating things like junk food or candy or carbonated drinks, kombucha is popular now, it just ferments whatever's down there. Sometimes symptomology starts to get worse. And so often, based on marketing, kombucha, for example, is like, people are saying how great it is. If you have a fungal overgrowth or some sort of yeast, your symptoms are going to get better. They're going to get worse. It's going to contribute to the problem because it's fermenting whatever's down there, which isn't good bacteria. You have to work on cleaning that system out, changing the culture down there, right? Getting those things out. When we look at, bacteria or fungus, they're parasitic in nature because they're living off of you. You are their food source. You are their home. And in order to get these guys out, you have to kind of force them out. They don't just leave willingly, right? I've worked with clients who have done, multiple parasite cleanses, and it keeps coming back. It keeps coming back because either the cleanse isn't intense enough or it doesn't hit every spectrum that needs to be, hit. When you're working with parasites, like they lay eggs and they hatch in different varying cycles. It could be 3-month cycles. So you feel good for a month or two, and then all of a sudden, boom, it hits you again. And people are like, oh, well, what happened, right? And so when I work with clients, you want to create a individualized plan or detox plan or cleanse program. And this is based on different organ systems, not just your gut, right? Your gut is only where you're digesting nutrients or digesting and assimilating nutrients, right? You have to be able to actually clean out the system. And that's liver, gallbladder, that's kidney system, are your lymphatics working? And all of this, like none of that is even possible if the lifestyle basics aren't down, which is, are you eating enough vegetables in a day? Are you drinking enough water to keep your body hydrated, right? And I like to explain it in a way, you think of yourself as a plant. If you're not hydrating the plant dies. If you don't hydrate yourself, like your body isn't thinking about detoxing. It's just trying to stay alive, right? So are you eating enough food? Vegetables included, right? Fiber, not just juicing. Are you getting the roughage through your system? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting sleep, right? If you're not getting sleep, the body cannot recover. Your cortisol levels aren't going to drop and you're going to stay inflamed. And we all know when cortisol is high, it affects our insulin, it affects our adrenals, like it affects our stomach. So many things become affected by cortisol. So, when I work with my clients, the first phase when we're working together is possibly a food intolerance test, like removing things that you're intolerant to, which we immediately see a drop in inflammation, which is great. So you start feeling better. Drink enough water, get some sleep, and let's get enough food into you, real food, right? If it's in a package, it's, in my opinion, is not food, right? Food is a one ingredient food, right? When you have a protein bar that has multiple ingredients, that is not a one ingredient food. People having shakes in place of meals, right? That stuff doesn't work. All the shakes, all the juices, like even I like green juice, right? It's an addition to food. It's an addition of nutrients, not just, this is my meal and that's it. That's called starving yourself to some degree. And you're not giving your body anything to burn. Like there's no metabolic effect because you're not eating anything. So I see vegans and vegetarians who are eating, all these green things and all these juices, but they're not getting enough food in them to create any sort of metabolism. So we end up starting to see hormonal issues on the other side. Or we have people who are eating, like bodybuilders, for example, in my past and this included, who are eating all this food, but there aren't enough micronutrients to sustain what it is that you're doing. Or what they're doing. And so we start to see health issues, on that side as well. I want to leave you with one perspective, and it's, we talk about physique goals versus health goals. And I remember I was in BioSig 2 with James Laval. He's a world-renowned endocrinologist. And we talked about, there was like probably over 200 people in the room. And he was like, how many of you have abs? 90% of the people put their hand up because we're strength coaches. Of course we got abs. It's like comes with the job title. And then he asked, how many of you are healthy, or based on your idea of what health is? And I wasn't. Like probably 80% of the room put their hand up and said that they weren't healthy, right? We have adrenal issues, fatigue issues. We're taking all the supplementation just to keep us running. We have gut issues, right? The list went on and on. And, OHIP does these blood tests, and it really doesn't tell you anything. It only tells you if you're dying, right? If you have a disease. And so that's why I don't like how people rely on blood testing, because it doesn't actually give you the information that you need to know if you're healthy or not. Most of my clients, their blood results are fine, but they still are suffering. They have mental fatigue. They got brain fog. They can't sleep. They can't think. Their hands are cold. Their feet are cold. They have gut issues, gallbladder this, thyroid that, right? The list goes on, but it always comes down to the basics, which is lifestyle, which is really epigenetics. So it's focusing on the lifestyle habits. Everyone has a preset, genetic spectrum. Like some people are better than others, but it's your epigenetics, your lifestyle that determines how you use that genetic profile, right? And based on your epigenetics, some things can become active and some things can remain inactive, right? It's your lifestyle that plays through to that. So you really have to decide how you want to live your life. Do you want to, do you want to live or do you want to die? Because really every decision is either playing towards health or death, or like a progression or a regression. You have to decide what it is and what it's worth, right? Those people are like, oh, I'm going to reward myself because I got a raise, and I'm going to get loaded on alcohol and drugs and eat shit food and then feel shitty for 3 days. If you call that a reward, then that's on you. Everyone has a difference in what they think that is, right? So I was really long-winded to basically sum up that, if you have gut issues, don't get stuck in the idea that it's a gut issue. It's really your epigenetics, it's your lifestyle, and you just need to be educated on how to form, X diet, Jesse diet, Jason diet, Gabe diet versus like I'm going to be a paleo or a vegan or a vegetarian, because, regardless of what diet I pick, I'm intolerant to avocado, oatmeal, bell peppers, spinach. I was intolerant to sweet potatoes at one point. So it's not about picking a diet. It's about picking the diet for you, making your own diet and including food rotation. And if you guys need help with that, drop me a line. Glad to help, sort through whatever health issues you got. Because if you got, physique issues or physique goals, you got to deal with health. You got to work inside out. Have a good day, guys.